Hi everyone, welcome along to the second episode of the Endless Celts Scotland at the Euros spin-off. My name's Anthony, filling in for Stephen tonight, although he's very kindly joining us for the discussion tonight. This is the show where we put aside all our club allegiances and we focus solely on the national team and their European campaign. Before we get underway tonight though, we just want to say a few words just in tribute to one of our greatest sons at Celtic, Bertie Auld, who was sadly confirmed as suffering with dementia today by the club. Like I say, Bertie is one of Celtic's greatest sons, made 176 appearances for the club and won 5 league championships, 4 league cups, 3 Scottish cups, and of course played a massive part in our finest hour in playing against Inter Milan in the heat of Lisbon when we became the first side from these shores to lift the European Cup. On behalf of everyone at Endless Celts, we send nothing but our love, best wishes and prayers to Bertie and his family at this very sad time. Okay, boys, moving on, and we'll focus everything on the Euros tonight. Ross, I'm going to come to you first, mate, just with regards to after all the build-up to Monday, we sadly had the sobering, crushing disappointment of the result, of course. But just going to come to you first with regards to as the sort of dust is settled, what are your sort of takeaways from the first game against the Czech Republic on Monday?
As regards the game itself, or
yeah, we'll start with the game itself, mate. Yeah.
I thought we played well in spells. Excuse me. I thought we started the second half really well until we had the stuffing knocked out of us with that moment. But I think in the first half, our captain Robertson had that chance at 0-0 and it was massive. You just want him to keep it low there, and I know he worked the keeper, but if he keeps it low, it just made it more easy for the keeper, and you have to really be taking the chances at this level, and inevitably, as we all seen, we got punished. But I would say that their keeper was certainly as busy as what Marshall was, and I think you've got to take a positive for that. The only difference between the two sides was probably that they were, well, I say they're one player that scored the 2 goals. Don't ask me to say his name. Schlick or something, is
it? I think so, yeah.
He was more clinical than, well, certainly our front man Dykes, if you like, although he didn't have as many, well, he had one half chance that he sort of stuck a toe out to, but I don't think we ever looked desperate or uncomfortable within the game at any point. It was just really that one moment that sort of it killed us in the end. But I think Tierney being out, it had. I'm not trying to excuse Clark, but I think that had a big bearing on his team selection in the end. I think that he went for a team that lacked pace and was far too conservative and showed too much respect to the opposition. I think we were desperately needed. Certainly in a game that you look at where you think we can win the 3 points here. And I think we were widely regarded as the favourites for the game. Just an injection of pace for the start was needed. Guys that are more mobile. I think when you saw that when Adams certainly came on and then Forrest came on, it started to open up a bit, slightly more for us. But you're starting with guys like Stephen O'Donnell. I can see he sort of went with him for the sort of defensive mind, but for me, I don't think he, with the greatest respect, should be near a Scotland jersey, and I don't think he belongs at this level. But I mean, there is positives. We played okay, and we weren't overrun. I know we're going to be facing a step up the more night, but you just never know.
Absolutely, and I agree with a lot of that, Ross. I think, obviously, at the full time, we were absolutely bitterly disappointed with the result, which is always the first thing you look at. But in the cold light of day, when you actually watch it back, there was a lot of positives and a lot of good points to take from the game. Perhaps, like Steve Clarke says in the post-match interview, that the breaks just didn't go with us on the day, and the Czech Republic are they're a sly old bunch. They're streetwise in tournaments like this, and they fully took their chances when they came along. John, I'll come to you next. Was there anything else you sort of felt in the game that sort of went against us, or just your overall thoughts on how Scotland approached the match?
I mean, I got to agree with what Ross was saying, Anthony. I think that the team was set up a wee bit more defensive minded, whereas I'd like to have seen them select a starting 11 that was a wee bit more attacking orientated, a wee bit more pace. And like you said, missing Tierney on that left side as well, you could see the difference. For most part of the game, we controlled it. We had a fair share of chances as well. Their keeper pulled off some cracking saves, as did Marshall. And it could have went either way, really. Like you say, I think after the initial watching it the first time, I think we were a bit disappointed because we expected better, if that makes sense. But watching it back again, Anthony, I'm sure you mentioned it as well. We didn't play badly. It just was an unfortunate thing. The Czech Republic took their first goal relatively well. I mean, it's just another standard everyday goal. These things happen. The second goal, however, should never have happened. God knows what Marshall was doing that high up. Even when you're pressing and you're playing with a high line and you're pressing teams, he's there's absolutely no need and reason for him to be 35, 40 yards off his line. Absolutely no need. And if he's 10 yards back, he catches that, he saves it. But ultimately, it should never have been up there. And a lot of people have pointed the finger at Henry for daring to attempt to take a shot at goal. He's well within his right to. But ultimately, that I can't pronounce his name either, Schlick or whatever his name is. He hit that ball really well. And you have to have some technique to be able to hit the ball the way he did. And even the balls it takes to even take that chance. But again, why no? You're seeing the opposition keeper 40 yards off his line. You have to take a shot at it. And I think he's set a record now for the longest goal in the Euros history. So fair play to him. But there's not much more. There's not much more we can really say about it other than that. But it's just sort of like Ross says. I think we're favourites. It's a game that we expected to maybe take 3 points. That isn't the case, and we just need to keep lift the heads and then go at these guys' throats tomorrow for the jump.
Absolutely. Now, like yourself, John, I'm not too sure about how you pronounce the goal scorer's name either, but just going by the Metro newspaper the next day's, their headline on the back page was "What a Schickner." So I'm assuming it's maybe something along those lines. But yeah, like you say, just a fantastic goal. That obviously, it was a total Schickner for us, to say the least. So, Stephen, our brother from across the pond, obviously, I'm sure you would have had your blue shirt on, cheering us on, no doubt, on Monday. From a slightly more neutral point of view, was there anything that you any positives you think us members of the Tartan Army can take from Monday's game?
Well, first of all, I mean, you made that quite obvious, leaving the Irish from to the end, but sure. I'm on this journey with you guys. I mean, it was a good suggestion by the group to cover Scotland at the Euros. I'm really excited for it. I mean, both Irish teams, Northern Ireland Republic, aren't in the tournament. So, I mean, there's a Celtic contingent within Scotland, so I'm taking a keen interest in them. My big issue was, going back to the start, was the lineup, to be honest. The starting lineup was a bit of a damp squid, in my personal opinion. This Czech Republic side isn't the side of Brzezinski, Nedved, Milan Baros. This is an aging Czech side. And I get what you're saying that they're streetwise, but I think John made a great point saying there need to be pace. There need to be injections of pace. And Ross alluded to Stephen O'Donnell. I mean, he's been linked with Celtic in the past, and by all accounts, he's a good, solid defender. But Ross said he doesn't belong at this level, in my opinion. His shortcomings were there for all to see. I mean, There was a time in the first half he couldn't even control the ball, went out of play, but not just to pick on one player. Looking at the game in general, I think the way he set up was too defensive. Then the Dykes, for me, they kicked the ball up to him, and it's a helpless task. He's heading it, and there's no one running in behind. Christie, for all his hard work and industrious attitude, he doesn't really break the lines for me. I mean, yes, Scotland controlled the games in large parts, but again, at the end of the day, Czech Republic got the win. So it's a bit Celtic reminiscent, isn't it? Neil Lennon used to come out and say we think the breaks didn't go our way or blah, blah, blah. But you look at the likes of Fraser on the bench, Gilmore, Forrest, even Turnbull to an extent. There's someone on with a bit of know-how and a bit of thing to unlock the defence. And the goals that Scotland conceded, is the first one, as John rightly said, was that's a goal that's conceded every week in every other league in the world. It's just a ball over the top and a header. Maybe a defender, Grant Hanley, could have done better with it. But the second goal, I mean, Jesus, I don't know what was happening. A lot of people were putting the blame on Jack Hendry, saying he should have took the shot. But again, he had a shot and hit the crossbar any other day. That might have went in. It could have been a different story. Marshall, I don't know what he was trying to do. I mean, the term sweeper keeper, I mean, that's the modern day, isn't it? I mean, Manuel Neuer for Germany does that there perfectly. But David Marshall comes out of his net that far out. And again, that wasn't a free goal because your man, Schelk, or whatever he's called, I mean, you know me, guys, me and names are a bit crap, but I'll try my best. He even came out in his interview and said he's seen Marshall off his line in the first half, so he's planned that in his head. And obviously it's a freak goal because 9 times out of 10, the defence would have picked up the ball and recycled possession. But there seems to be, I don't know what you guys think, I'll come to yourself, Anthony, obviously hosting the show today. Is there a mental block with Scotland going into these tournaments? We've seen it so many years. Obviously, they've missed out and they've missed qualification. We were all excited. We were all having the wee drink and stuff watching this game. And the lineup come out. Steve Clarke is obviously known as a conservative guy, conservative manager in terms of the way he plays. And we've seen that at Kilmarnock. But do you not think there was a wee bit of more for exploitation in terms of Fraser starting where O'Donnell was? Billy Gilmore, everyone knows he's the up-and-coming thing at Chelsea. And Callum McGregor, to a certain extent, to keep the ball and recycle it into the field, because John McGinn, for me, he's a brilliant player. Armstrong and Scott McTominay, but do you know what I mean? They're all like the same type of player to break up the play. But again, there's no forward thinking. No, John McGinn scored a few goals, but do you guys not seen like there's a wee bit of a mental block with Scotland?
I think, considering how long it's been since we qualified, it's probably a bit difficult to say it's a mental block. I think looking at it through sober eyes last night, even because they certainly weren't sober on Monday. I think it was just one of those games that do go against you. Like Ross says, we could have took our chances, and it's a totally on another day. We're sitting here with the 3 points. I mean, it is of course the fact that Scotland have never won on the opening game of any major tournament that we've qualified for, and we did think that was perhaps going to be a wrong, but sadly it wasn't to be. But hopefully, like you say, hopefully we can perhaps get a bit better on Friday night.
Anthony, just before you move on to the next topic, do you not think, obviously, the big issue with people was Lee Griffiths obviously coming to the Euros, and he didn't do himself any favours at Celtic, but all three strikers, like for me, Adams, Dykes and Nesbitt, I mean, they're all quite the same. None of them have a blistering bit of pace, do you know what I mean? I think if Lee Griffiths had kept fit, he could have been at something different, if you know what I mean. I mean, Shankland, but again, he's quite slow, he's a poacher, but do you not think that there's a bit of, especially in the forward area, that it's a bit...
Personally, if I was Steve Clarke, I would have taken him. I would have found a place for him. But by the same token, Lee wouldn't have necessarily deserved that sort of faith in him, because he hasn't put in any sort of dedication to get himself in any sort of shape for club forum this year. And I suppose at this level, you can't be seen to be doing favours to anyone based on past glories, no matter what their achievements are. As I say, personally, I think there is something a little bit maverick about Lee Griffiths, and it does offer you something different. So I would have probably found a role for him, but I can completely understand why Steve Clarke didn't. But moving on for the game itself, boys, Ross, I'll come to you first. Of course, we were absolutely gutted with the result. I think that's sort of goes without saying. But I don't know about you, just in the sort of build-up, maybe sort of 7-10 days before, have you sort of sensed anything around the build-up to the match itself, just the sort of sort of feel-good factor almost to just actually being back at a tournament. Like we say, it's been best part of a quarter of a century since we've been at one of these events. And I don't know about you, I think kudos to the BBC and the STV. Some of the shows, especially, I thought the fantastic France 98 highlight, Mr. Brown's Boys, their sort of fly on the wall documentary of that particular tournament, and just boys that have been there and sort of been there, done that, got the t-shirt, so to speak, and hearing these guys talk and about their experiences, and there seems to have been a wave of good feeling about the country in the build up to the game on Monday. Would you agree?
Aye, there definitely has, and that, I mean, I enjoyed that programme, France 98 one. I enjoyed the bit about when they were in the tunnel standing next to the Brazilians, and like they're all glistening and looking well, and Paul Lambert had said about Burley and Jim Leighton standing with no teeth, and then the next minute you hear Craig Brown shouting in the background, "Don't worry, boys, they're fucking shiting themselves." That amused me, that one. But aye, there's definitely you can notice there's a sort of feel good factor. People are getting involved, and no disrespect, but even like yourself, who normally, you said it yourself in the chat the other night, you normally turn your nose up when it comes to an international weekend, and you says, "I'm never going to do it again because I'm absolutely buzzing and loving Scotland being back on the big stage." And that's just, for me, a prime example of how everybody's getting on board.
Yeah.
And it's just an excuse. We're a nation that likes a party, and it's an excuse for a party. I mean, you want to win, obviously, first and foremost, but if you don't win, we've been cooped up for so long, and now we're allowed to go out, and it's just coincided with Scotland being back in the big stage, and it's sort of worked out really well. I'll be at the pub tomorrow night for the first time in a while, and I'll be drinking a pint in a pub for the first time in a long while with some of my mates, and that's just class. And there's a feel good factor definitely going about the country right now. And I mean, my God, if we win tomorrow night, that words can't describe what it'll be like. It'll be off the scale.
Absolutely, I could not agree more, Ross. I mean, like you say, I mean, us Scots don't need much excuse to get on it. Like you say, I mean, Auntie Teresa's first driving lesson, we use that as an excuse to get on it as well, you know. But John, I'll just ask you the sort of the same question, mate. Have you been caught up in Euro fever? Are you just buzzing about being back at a tournament in general, or do you feel we've got to look at it through a little bit more sort of sober eyes, so to speak?
No, I mean, like I says, last time we were there was any major tournament was 1998, and that's a long time to wait. So I'd be surprised if any sort of, you don't even necessarily need to be a football fan, are kind of getting caught up in the fever, as Ross said, and just getting behind the nation, because it's massive for us, and as a nation that's so passionate about football as well, to not be in a major international tournament for such a long time. Of course, when you finally make it there again, everybody's going to be buzzing. And I'm like you, Anthony. It's no, I kind of turned my nose up to the national side a bit. They weren't performing particularly well. This penchant for sticking with players through loyalty rather than talent, and it was just seemed to be, we were struggling constantly, and it was failure after failure, and it was disheartening. And you kind of lose. You always take an interest and you check the scores and all that, but I wasn't one for like sitting down and watching games start to finish. I'd check in on it every now and again. But like I said, to have Scotland back in a major international tournament again is absolutely massive for me, and it sort of reminds me. It takes me back to when I was younger, and seeing them in France '98 and what that was like, and it just sort of reminds me how important this, I suppose, the national side is to everybody, really, because I think we're all in the same sort of boat. And it's true as well what you said. It's like you want us to do well, and Steve Clarke's done a fantastic job, and he's got us in a position where we're actually competing again. We're confident. He's bringing younger guys through. The team looks better, and it's just it just seems like a good period again, and things certainly look to be on the up. And hopefully this is a sort of sign that we're on the way forward again. We've got some cracking players in this team, fantastic talent, and young guys in that coming through. And like Wales have shown, it's like for a small nation, and they're not even as big in football as we are, but the talent's there, and they're well managed, and the entire country of Wales is behind them. Even I know people that don't even follow football, Welsh friends of mine, not football fans at all, just massive rugby fans. Rugby's a thing down in Wales as well, no, but are firmly behind Wales, and look at how they're performing, and it's fantastic to see. And I'm hoping that we are on the same sort of trajectory, and that this is going to continue. And as Ross says, if we can pull off a result tomorrow, then I think it's going to shut a lot of people up, and I don't think we're going to see a party like it.
I couldn't agree more, John. I mean, you think of it, of course, that we had the disappointing result on Monday, and obviously in the immediate aftermath of that, you're absolutely crushed, and you feel like all that perhaps that hype and buzz and build up at the exact moment was all for nothing. But then when the dust settles a little bit, you just think, well, it's just another sort of Peru or Costa Rica or Iran. We never necessarily particularly start tournaments well traditionally, but the way I see it, we're only one game out of 3 and potentially more. You just never know. If we're going to do it, we're going to do it the hard way, but that's surely the best and most enjoyable way. But anyway, I'm going to come to yourself, Stephen, for the next one. As we say, we're one game down. The big one comes next, so to speak. The old enemy, England, at the inverted commas home of football, Wembley Stadium. Do you think Scotland have any hope tomorrow?
Well, before going on to the game, I want to kind of reflect on what you guys were saying there. I think this European Championships has been a festival of football. I've never watched so much football in my life. Every day I'm watching a different match. And I mean, the national anthem at Hampden, I think it was 9,000 people, but it sounded full on the TV. I had goosebumps just listening to it. It was fantastic. And seeing the fans back in, boys, I don't know about yourselves, but it's brilliant to see. And there was a game there during the week in Budapest in Hungary, and the stadium was full, and it was just like, I can't wait to get back to that. So I mean, but it has been great. We've all been caught up in the build-up. I mean, I think people are so fed up with people watching football, but it's going to continue until it's over, isn't it? And long into the season with Celtic. But going on to England, Anthony, the old enemy, as you said. I mean, I'm one of them people, like, criticise me if you want, but I never want to see England do well. I just, for me, that they're so much in their own hype. So I mean, it's like, do you ever go to your favourite auntie's house to have a set of cutlery, and they're like, is this better than Granny's sets of cutlery? And it's all about comparing and contrasting. That's what it's like.
That's a very good analogy, my friend.
That's what it's like. So, I mean, everything has to be better, more glitz and glamour, better TV studios, better pitches, better facilities, the best players in the world, the most money in the league, and every time they go into the tournament, they're arrogant. When they play these nations, they're like, oh, we'll get through that, we'll get through this, and we'll get to the final, semi-final, whatever it may be. But ultimately, they fall flat in their arse, and that's true. I mean, England for many years have been littered with talent, going all the way back to the Lampard, Gerrard, Scholes times when they tried to fit all them and it didn't work. And you come up to now, they've got the likes of Foden, Sterling, Mason Mount, and it is a team littered with talent. But again, in that Croatia game, I don't know what the commentators were saying, but I didn't see anything that scared me. I didn't see anything that I thought they're going to turn over Scotland here, like 6 or 7-0. I mean, Jamie O'Hara, he's been quite vocal about what he thinks is going to happen on TalkSport. He thinks if England turn up and put in a half-decent performance, then Scotland will fold. I can't see that happening. It wasn't so long ago we had our own Lee Griffiths put 2 free kicks past them, do you know what I mean? And the game finished 2-each, but quite frankly, we should have held on for the win. But again, them things happen. I say we, I mean Scotland. People be going, you're Irish, what are you on about? But yeah.
Adopted Scott for this show tonight, my friend.
Adopted Scott, 100%. And there's nothing that scares me, Anthony, to tell you the truth. I mean, Scotland, if Tierney's back, that's a big plus. I mean, he was well missed in the first game. And if Steve Clarke's going to stick to the 3-5-2, as he seems to do, I mean, I was quite annoyed that he didn't move away from that in the second half in the Czech Republic game. But if Tierney's back, that's a big plus. And you look at the squad. I mean, all the squads playing in their top leagues are the top teams in a league. Tierney, Robertson's the Champions League winner. Billy Gilmore, no matter if he only played 2 or 3 games for Chelsea, he's still been around a squad that's won the Champions League recently. So there is talent, and I'm quietly confident. Yeah.
Great stuff. And Ross, I'll come to you next, mate, just sort of for your thoughts. Like Stephen says, obviously, after the first game, England won the tournament. Goal. So, could we cause an upset? European champions, just like they did way back in '67?
Sorry, you cut out there.
Oh, sorry, mate. Be technical issue. I'm just saying, can this current Scotland team do what the Wembley Wizards did back in '67 and become the unofficial European champions?
Of course they can. Aye, absolutely. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's going to be a tough game, but it's not beyond the realms of probability. We've beaten better teams than this England team down the years, as we alluded to on last week's extravaganza. I mean, the odds are stacked against us, but sometimes that's when Scotland give us some of their biggest performances. Everyone will have to be at the top of their game, and that includes the manager. Everyone will have to be brave, and that starts with the manager. He has to be more brave with starting lineup. Treat this game as a one-off, winner-takes-all cup final. I mean, who knows when we'll be batting this stage? So just leave everything out there in the park. Get our dangerous, pacey attackers on the park for the start and have a go. I mean, I get that they'll want to try and blast us out early, and we might need to weather a storm for the first 20 minutes or so. But I think we have more of a chance if we go at them rather than inviting them onto us. Just have a go. That's give them something to think about rather than the other way around. I just didn't want to leave this tournament trying not to get beat rather than trying to win the game. I mean, you've got to pray that Kieran Tierney's fit. I think it seems like he will be. He was training the other day, and that it's going to be tough. I'm not forgetting the qualities that they possess, as you've touched on. They have got some good players, but I never seen anything to be frightened of in that first game. They're a good side, but this is Scotland against England, and anything can happen. But certainly Scotland will have to play better, absolutely. But so will England have to play better than they played in the first game, because that was one of the worst games I've seen in the tournament, and neither team looked like there's a semi-finalist between them. So I am quietly confident. I think we've got, it's a game of football. We've got a chance, and that's it, whether they like it or not. And if we just have a go, put our good attacking players on, start with Forrest. I would start with Gilmore, but we have to. If we start with Gilmore, we have to get the ball on the deck and let him do his thing and bring him into the game. None of this playing Dykes up front his cell if you're playing Gilmore and just bypass him with long balls, because he can't affect the game then, and it's pointless playing him. We have to get the ball down, get our good players on the ball, attack them at pace, and put Adams probably alongside Dykes to try and take away this just punt up the park. I get at times you're going to have to do it because England will probably have a lot of the ball, but we've got a chance, and I can't wait for the game to start because I'm just buzzing, nervous, and it just needs to be here now. I feel exactly how I feel, or I would feel, before a Celtic Rangers game to an extent, and I can't wait for it to kick off and the beer to flow, and hopefully, even just see if we could get that high of just even celebrating a goal, like a goal that we go 1-0 up or we equalise or whatever. Even that would be enough for me. But obviously, you want to win the game, but to feel that high, Scotland scoring an important goal in a major championship. There's no a lot that can top that.
Absolutely, I'm totally with you on that, mate. And like you say, you sort of get the same butterflies, that anxiety, that nervous excitement. I did say last week on the extravaganza that it is the international Old Firm game, so to speak. That extravaganza is still available to listen to, everyone, if anyone feels like it, on all the usual outlets. And just in an alternative universe, I'm still sobering up from it, to tell you the truth. But as I say, like you say, Ross, I'm totally in agreement with you on that. We're at the tournament now. All we wanted to do was be here. Now we are. Then, like you say, what have we got to lose? It's a bit like when you get invited to the cool guys' house party when you're in 6th year. There's no point going in and being quiet. You're as well just, try to win she's bird. That's it. You just go for it. You're here. You go full weather. Absolutely. So, John, I'm going to come to you just for your thoughts on the build up to the game itself. Like you, as Ross says, there's no doubt that England do have some great players, and they of course will have a lot of the ball and are absolutely the favourites for the match. I don't think anyone, even the most dyed in the wool Tartan Army supporter, would argue otherwise. But by the same token, I mean, we already have the title deeds to Twickenham this year. Why can't we have the ones to Wembley as well?
No, you're absolutely right. And as I say, I'm confident as well. Like I said, that first game, I mean, we've all seen it. And as Stephen says, the arrogance for the media regarding England, scraping through against Croatia, absolutely terrible game, but winning in that same tournament winners already. And it doesn't matter who's playing. British broadcasting, all they can talk, they don't talk about the game at hand or what's happening. They just want to talk about England. And it's that arrogance that I think gives us all Scotland fans, I'd imagine, that just sort of that bad taste in our mouth, and we all just want to get one up on them. And they've no doubt seen the fact that we lost 2-0 in that opening game, and then rather than actually talk about the game and the positives for Scotland and the fact that we are still a threat, whether they can see it or no, or whether they want to believe it or no, ultimately are writing us off because we lost. So I'm confident we can get a result. I don't see why we can't. As I said earlier, if we play Tierney being back, utilise the pace and the talent on the left, utilise pace throughout the park, maximise the width. Don't play long balls, as Ross says. Like, play the ball, keep it down, play it through the middle, use your flanks. Like, make them think. Don't just punt it up the park and hope Dykes can bring it down and then take a pot shot at goal. But if we can get off to a good start and just go right at their throats, we'll give them a fright and they'll not know what to do. And because I think they are quietly writing us off as well and think it's going to be easy. And I think if we just start snapping at their ankles for the first whistle and making sure they feel it, don't give them nothing. Just go at them, give them absolutely nothing. And I think they'll be pleasantly surprised, and I think putting them on the back foot and we'll make them think twice. And I think that if we can manage that and get in their heads, then I think we could pull off an incredible result.
That sounds just the ticket for me, my man. I'm going to come to you all individually just for your score prediction. So, John, I'll just come straight back to you. So, put your chips in the oven and make a decision. What's the score going to be?
I'm going to say 2-1.
2-1. Fantastic.
Scotland,
Stephen, your good self.
By the way.
Well, I kind of took that as I sort of took that as a given, my man. Stephen, what about yourself, mate?
I can also say, John, you made some fantastic points there in regards to just going out their throats, and we brought this up in the group chat and we all had a wee discussion about it. I personally think the midfield battle is there to be won, because a midfield of Declan Rice and Calvin Phillips for me isn't better than John McGinn, McTominay, and if it's Gilmore starting or Armstrong. I personally think Scotland's midfield is stronger. I don't know about you guys, but that's my opinion. My score prediction, 1-0 Scotland.
1-0. I'll take that any day of the week, Stephen. And finally, young Mr. Muir, give us your prediction.
I'm going to go 1-0 Scotland as well.
1-0. So it's a narrow win for the boys in blue, right across the board from all the guys here. I'm going to go very much the same way. I actually don't think it'll be a high scoring game either. And I do actually have a couple of pound on 1-0 as well. So I'm very much hoping that's the case tomorrow night. So I'll just come to these boys just before we sort of round it up tonight. But we don't have too many in recent memory, certainly in our lifetimes, of too many sort of big highs against England. But I'm sure you can think of a couple. Ross, is there anything that particularly stands out when you think of the Scotland-England encounter?
Well, obviously there's the Griffiths moments, which were incredible. But the one that stands out for me, and in the end we didn't do enough to overturn the first leg deficit. But when McCann played that ball in for Big Hutchison, and he rose at the back post and gave us an early lead, and we won. We beat them in the final match between Scotland and England at the old Wembley. We beat them 1-0, albeit we lost 2-1 in aggregate. That was some performance on the night. And everybody had written us off after Paul Scholes had done us twice at Hampden. So they wrote us off then. They're writing us off now. So another cross in for Tierney and Big Dykes to rise at the back post this time would do me fine.
Amen to that. I remember watching it with my big brother that night. Obviously, you went down. You knew you were sort of 2-0 down for the first leg. You went there just hoping to get a wee bit of pride, but never did we think we would put in a performance like we did that night. I mean, it was 1-0 going on 3 or 4, if I remember correctly. Scotland were absolutely incredible that night, and I'm sure, I think it might have been Paul Ritchie. I might have been wrong there, but it was a sort of point blank save for Dave Seaman from a header with about sort of 9-10 minutes to go, which would have sort of tied the whole leg. And I reckon we'll never know, but if that second goal goes in, you just never know what would have happened that night. But like you say, it was always nice to just make our final trip down to the old Wembley and come home with a win and the bragging rights. It was brilliant, like you say. Stephen, have you got any particular highlights, Scotland versus England over the years?
Well, I'm not going to lie and say like my knowledge of Scotland England games is through the roof like you guys, but I mean the one that sticks out in my mind the most is obviously when Griffiths put the 2 free kicks past Joe Hart, basically take the piss out of him. That was fantastic. I mean, I was tearing, my throat was sore and everything after watching that. One thing I do want to touch upon, what's annoying me right now, do you ever, right, you're going to the coverage of the game, say before any game starts, they keep showing that Gascoigne goal against Scotland. It's like on a continuous loop. Do you know what I mean? It's like, we get he scored a goal, relax about it. Do you know what I mean? He's not playing in the game on Friday. But, I mean, what I love a Scotland England game to be is, like you said, like the Glasgow Derby, it's passion, it's energetic, they're going at each other's throats, and that's what I want to see tomorrow. I want to see Scotland go out and give it their all. As Ross said it when he was saying what he wants to happen, get the pacey players on, get the creative players on, go out there on the pitch and just give them the game, because I'm quietly confident that we can script that 1-0 victory and hopefully get through with a best third place finish.
I tell you, I really hope that Steve and the boys are listening to this tonight and their build up, because I'm totally convinced now that we're coming away with the 3 points. Let me tell you, John, I'll just some great words there from Stephen as well. Have you got any particular highlights when it comes to the clash against the old enemy?
I mean, they're few and far between, and really, for as long as I can remember. Obviously, as Stephen and that said, that you've got that 2-2 result where back in 2017 where Lee Griffiths scored the 2 amazing free kicks. I think everybody across the country lost their voice the next day, we're roaring. But I mean, really, prior to that, we've not had much luck. And the only other time I can remember us getting a result, I think, was back in 1999 or something like that, 2000. I think we scraped a 1-0 win, but that's about it. I mean, that was so far long ago that I can't really remember it. I just saw him telling me that, I know we've won a game recent years, at least in my lifetime. But Aye, the one that sticks in my mind is the 2-2 because it's the most recent and it's the one positive result we've had against them for a long time. So I think that was one that sticks with me.
Did we not
Right,
have
I mean-
a good friendly? I'm sure it was a friendly we won at Wembley against them. Kenny Miller scored a beautiful goal, and actually James, it might have been, I think it was 2-1 to Scotland that night, maybe. James Morrison scored as well.
Yeah, it was sickening, mate. We were ahead twice in the game and lost. I think Theo Walcott scored with a few minutes to go,
so
and
did,
we
aye,
actually it was. I think it was to sort of commemorate. I think it was the 150th anniversary of the FA, or
Aye.
something, or it was maybe something to do with the sort of the new Wembley, or maybe the Wembley being at that particular site. There was some sort of connotation behind it why we played them. But like you say, we were perhaps a wee bit. Of course, it was just a friendly. There wasn't any sort of meaning competition behind it. But again, we went down that night and we were told we were
brilliant goals.
going to be getting embarrassed, and we went for it, and we gave a really good account of ourselves. And I would say perhaps more of the same tomorrow, with perhaps a wee bit more lady luck on our side, and you just never know. I must admit, go think my own memories, Scotland, England, and it's probably it wasn't a get like it's the the game that Stephen mentioned, with the Gascoigne goal, but it's just what I remember. As I said last week in Extravaganza, Euro '96 is my first memory watching football, like actually sitting down with the family and sort of getting involved. And obviously, Andy Gorham played in goals for Scotland that day. And obviously, throughout that time, when you're a Celtic fan, you couldn't score against Andy Gorham. So in my head, Scotland were winning that day.
He was, though.
He was a tremendous goalkeeper. And that's the thing, John. In my head, I was like, well, Scotland are obviously going to win because nobody can score a goal against Andy Gorham. Unfortunately, his teammate scored a bit of a blinder against him. But I think just remember watching it that day. I was out playing in the garden and kicking the ball about and just sort of getting that sort of love for the game that's still with me to this day. But it was sun was splitting the trees. You're watching it on the telly as well, and London was I don't think there was a cloud in the sky down in London that day, and the sea of St George's crosses against the Saltire, and it creates that buzz and excitement. And although, as we've sort of touched on, we're not on the certainly in recent times against England, we haven't been on the better end of the final score, but I think we always do give a decent account of ourselves, and we're never embarrassed, shall we say? And all I can sort of say to round up tonight, boys, is I firmly believe we should only just enjoy our time here in this tournament. It's taken us best part of a quarter of a century to get here. And as disappointed as we were with the result on Monday, we're only a third of the way through. We've still got 2 games to play, minimum, because you just never know. And all we can say from everyone at Endless Celts is our best wishes to Steve and to Scotland tomorrow night. And here's hoping for a big result that can really get us going in this European Championships. But in terms of the actual show tonight, boys, I think that's everything for tonight. Have you enjoyed being on?
100%.
Yeah, aye.
Yeah, it's been good, man.
It's been good. Well, I must admit, I enjoyed being on last week and thoroughly enjoyed being on tonight. I think the Euro spin-off definitely works. I think it's something a wee bit different, and it just something different to focus on throughout the summer months before we go again on the club front. So, Stephen, I'll just quickly come to you just with the sort of schedule, just what listeners can expect in the sort of next week or so.
Well, the schedule hasn't been absolutely confirmed yet, but what we can say to the listeners is we're coming back next week with a Celtic podcast. I alluded to it on our reaction video last night in regards to the Champions League tie for Midtjylland. It is a bit strange that we haven't done one this week, but again, we're trying to focus on the Scottish journey for the European Championships, which is fantastic. And we'll be going back to Celtic and Scotland again next week and 2 separate podcasts. So there's plenty of things to look forward to. Recently put up the Jack Aitchison, the youngest ever Celtic goal scorer interview. That's up to listen to as well. And as Anthony said, the first extravaganza of the Euro editions, that's up as well. You can hear Andrew drunk, which is fantastic. It's good crack. Anthony, Andrew, I don't know why I come into my head. Anthony,
I was going to say.
you can hear. You think I was drunk there? I mean, but you can hear Anthony give his famous lines and his quotes and all. It's brilliant crack, and all the guys are in top form. So yeah, Anthony, back to yourself.
Thanks, mate. Yep, as like I say, perhaps one day I will sober up from that show, but at least it's out there now, and it can't be unheard, so to speak. But as I say, that's us for tonight, guys. So again, all the best to Scotland in match 2, and hopefully when we reconvene ahead of the build up to match night 3, we're talking about going to get 6 points against Croatia. And again, just once again want to reiterate all our love, prayers and best wishes to Bertie Auld and his family. And until we sort of reconvene, best wishes to everyone. Stay well and keep safe. Hail, hail, and come on, Scotland.